Hi guys, we're taking a little bit of a break from the usual schedule of reviews and what have you, because I want to talk about something which has been kind of playing on my mind lately, as it were. And you'll have to forgive the clickbaity thumbnail, title, whatever. I just want to talk a little bit about the collection of vinyl records as a hobby, where it currently stands, and honestly where I think it's going as well. And obviously the big thing that none of us can avoid, everybody's noticed it, and it's just one of those things which people will always point out to the collection of vinyl records, especially new vinyl records, is the price. When I was shopping for a new record in a local big retail chain, national retail chain, I was looking obviously to get a particular album. It's right there, in fact. And I was delighted with the pricing. It was £25, and within that I got a limited edition colour. It's this sort of like really nice sort of crimson black marble thing, so really, really nice looking. And it came with the record itself on 2 LPs. It came with a 12-inch art print of the cover, and it came with a digital download code for the record as well. And all of this was £25, you know, that's really, really reasonable. But as I was there, you know, browsing, shopping around as one does, flicking through the new releases, and I came across Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon 50th anniversary reissue. Now, bearing in mind, of course, this is still on a quite fancy, see-through, transparent vinyl with some nice printing of the sort of rainbow prism on it as well. But what shook me, and really, really startled me, was how much the going price was for this record. Now, bearing in mind, I understand and I appreciate it is a limited edition run of a 50th anniversary of one of the quote-unquote greatest albums of all time. But I really don't think it's worth the £65 retail price that is being asked for it. £65 for a new LP of an old record. Yes, it's been re-recorded, blah, blah, blah. Yes, it's special edition, blah, blah, blah. That's £65. That is about 2.5 times more expensive than that record over there. I was shook. I was absolutely shook. So I started looking through some of the older, less sort of like significant, if you want to quote a phrase, records that were on offer. And I saw Rammstein's Mutter, you know, the very successful, very popular record from German sort of like heavy metal band. I love that album. I've got it on CD somewhere, on my CD rack somewhere. But for the LP, this pressing, obviously like a fairly recent pressing, because I don't think they were even pressing it like originally back in the day on vinyl, but they were asking for £55. 55. Then I kept flicking. I looked at some of the older records, you know, like some of the old school classics from the 70s, which are on new pressings at the moment. Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life, again, £55. Then I started looking at just like some of the mid-level contemporary sort of stuff going on. You know, there's sort of stuff that's come out in the last couple of years. Maybe it's not like brand new or whatever. And I kept seeing similar pricing structures. 40, 50, 60. It just kept on going up. Metallica's Garage Inc. has recently been repressed on vinyl, and again, the price is sky high, absolutely extortionate. So I'm sat here thinking, how sustainable is this business model in the market? Just how is this likely to continue being a viable form of hobby for the general audience if the pricing structure is so vastly different between records, when you can go from something like the new Low Moon record, which you can go onto Amazon right now and buy it for £19.99, 20 quid for a brand new LP, or screw it, let's pay £65 for an album that came out 50 years ago. Cool, well, let's do that, whatever. Now, I'm not a business insider, okay? I don't have my foot on the pedal of what actually happens, you know, to create vinyl records, to what exactly is involved in the process from start to finish. You know, I don't know the production costs. I don't understand the ins and outs, so I'm not going to pretend that I know anything about that. But what I do find quite frustrating is vinyl is being treated more and more like a limited luxury commodity. Now, obviously, back in the day, this was the only way you could really listen to music. This is obviously before tape, before CD, before anything like that, and the only option you had was vinyl. Now, you look at some of the old pricing stickers on these records, and it's like £1.99 or £3 or whatever it is. it's not a lot. Even if you take into account inflation, it's not a lot of money. Now, what really sort of bakes my goose with all this is the fact that vinyl records are still produced in the same fashion today that they were in the 70s, you know. I mean, yes, there'll be more efficient methods of doing it or whatever, or more elaborate forms of quality control, etc., etc. But the brass tacks is, it is still a vinyl record. It is still created in the same fashion. Now, I don't know where this idea that vinyl records should be considered such a luxury commodity, such a luxury product, to the point where the pricing structure for them is completely out of whack with everything, you know. There's no consistency to the vinyl pricing structure. You can go in and expect to pay £20 for a record one day, and then the next day you come into the shop and you see £40 to £50 for the same amount of wax, you know, maybe even less music, who knows. Maybe it's going to cost you, like with Dune over there, that was 2 LPs for £25, or then you go into the record shop the next day and there's a single LP selling for £50. Now, I don't begrudge the record stores for this. They are merely following the RRP of these new releases, so, you know, no disrespect to any record store out there who is pricing as such. My problem with the pricing structure is that I feel it is fundamentally changing the face of how we approach this hobby, how we approach the idea of purchasing and listening to music on vinyl records. Obviously, back in the day, the idea of a vinyl record collection was about as complex as, these are the records I own, this is the music I listen to. And you would have lots of people with hundreds, possibly even thousands of albums in their collection, because that's just how you listened to music back then. Nowadays, we have so many options available to us. We have streaming, we have vinyl, we have CDs, we have tapes back again for some reason. I don't know why, but whatever. You know, there's so many options available to us in terms of how we listen to music, and the advent of streaming has made it very easy for us to sort of chop and change between various different albums, and it feels like part of the reason for the resurgence of vinyl is it brings back the experience of the whole, you know, taking the record from start to finish and appreciating it as an art form in and of itself, which is fantastic, don't get me wrong, I love that. But you do find that with the pricing structure of vinyl records, why would somebody pay £50 for an album that will cost them a fifth of that on CD? If their intention, of course, is to listen to the whole thing from start to finish. Surely, from a logistical point of view, it is merely easier to just buy the CD, eschew the £50 vinyl, and you can still listen to the whole thing from start to finish, in an argumentatively far simpler, less hands-on manner, because obviously with vinyl, especially considering you get these double disc albums, you have to flip it once, twice, blah, 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 blah. It's annoying, it's fiddly, and I mean, yes, I actually quite like it because I do feel a little bit more in touch with the music, sure. But I can understand why somebody would prefer to buy the CD, just because of the convenience sake of it. But with the pricing the way it's going, are we really approaching this as a hobby where people are spending this much money on an album to just listen to it? Because I don't think it's really feeling like that anymore. I can't help but feel the way this hobby is going, the way it is being priced, the way it is being driven towards, is more about collecting for collecting's sake. Gathering up your pieces to have something to display, I don't know the irony of displaying them behind there, but whatever. Something to display, something to put up there for people to see, something for you to sort of flex about, I suppose, is probably the best and most contemporary way of putting it. Having these albums, having that sort of clout, having that sort of, ooh, look at me, I've got this really rare pressing, it cost me £150, whatever. Or I got this one thing from a limited run of pressings of, like, I don't know, 500 copies to the world, and here it is on my shelf, and, you know, it's completely sealed, and it's never listened to, and I'm sat there thinking, I just don't understand when we sort of turned that corner from buying vinyl albums to listen to buying vinyl albums to display and never be seen the light of day, you know. I am a firm believer in the fact that music should be bought to be listened to. Every single one of my vinyl that I own is played. It is put on the turntable and I listen to it. And every single time I buy a new record, I listen to it pretty much on the same day that I buy it. Unless, you know, I find myself without the time to do so. But everything I buy is played. Everything I buy is listened to on the physical media on which I get it. I think my biggest concern with this sort of change in pricing and structuring of the hobby is how long can we sustain this business for the average Joe? How long are we going to be able to continue to populate the new vinyl market with these records that are going for 40, 50, 60, sometimes even higher than that, until somebody decides, you know what, nuts to this hobby's too expensive, I'm not doing this anymore. And I do feel we're almost in an Ouroboros situation here where the industry is going to end up self-consuming. They want to price at this ludicrously expensive rate because they see that people are still buying it. And I understand from a capitalist perspective, yes, you price this record at £40. You still sell out the entire run. Why would you lower the price? That would be ridiculous, right? You know, people are still buying it at £40 a pop, you know, so logically, from a business perspective, you wouldn't lower the price. Of course you wouldn't, because you're making money. You're making hand over fist money. But I just don't think it's sustainable. We're living in a extremely difficult financial situation in terms of the actual disposable income that people do have readily available for their hobbies and interests. And I just don't think that £50 a time for a brand new record that's just been released onto the market is something that most people will be able to sustainably do over a long period of time, which really does make me concerned that the hobby of collecting and listening to vinyl records is going to become cannibalized to the point where it is only the wealthy, only the elite, and only the very select few within this world who will actually be able to realistically partake in it. In some ways, they're going to become such a rare commodity that the idea of even owning any vinyl records will once again go the way of the dodo, and we will have a cyclical thing going on once again, where CDs came in, they were cheaper, they were more affordable, they were a lot more convenient, and I do feel that people who want to collect physical media are going to end up going down that route again, and vinyl will once again die off. Maybe then once again to be resurrected like the phoenix coming from the ashes when people realise the fact that nobody's buying them anymore. What if they lower the prices? And then the cycle continues and more people buy them, and then they start putting the prices up, and etc, blah, 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 blah. Until we have this whole self-fulfilling prophecy about the fact that vinyl keeps dying and rebirth and dying and rebirth and dying and rebirth, etc, etc. So what is the point of this video? What is the point of my stream of consciousness about this subject? Honestly, it's mostly because I wanted to get something off my chest. I wanted to just talk a little bit about what I feel is going on with the new vinyl market at the moment. The used market, you know, that's fine. The prices are set by the consumer at that point. The prices are put to whatever people are willing to pay for them, because quite frankly, people will pay what they think it's worth. But you don't have that luxury with brand new vinyl being released from stores. These prices are being set at the RRP, they're basically being set at the level which the market dictates they should be being done. Whereas the used vinyl market is in a much healthier state, you know. If somebody wants to pay, I don't know, the £20,000 or whatever it was, that first edition pressing of the Beatles' White Album, you know, that belonged to John Lennon, or whatever it was, that ridiculous price, then that's fine. That's for that person to decide what they want. But I have been to used record fairs before, and I've picked up 5, 6, 7 records at a time for like 30 quid overall. And that's because that is the price that the used market is able to set out. It is the dictated or established value of this record. But you don't get that luxury when you're buying brand new, when you're buying hot off the presses albums, which are selling for £40 to £50 at a pop. And I'm just getting to that point now where I just can't do that. I simply cannot justify that kind of expenditure. But I'm caught between a rock and a hard place, you know. I want the physical media. I like vinyl. I like the form factor. I like how it looks in my hands, how it feels, and, you know, everything like that. I enjoy that. I love that about vinyl. And I just don't quite get that same buzz that I do from a CD, you know. It's fine. I love owning CDs because I like to own the physical media. But it's not the same... I don't know, it's not got the same pull, it's not got the same draw. There is something infinitely more rewarding to me about holding the vinyl in my hands. The proper 12-inch LP, it's beautiful, you know, it's a wonderful thing. It's great. And I will still continue to support the artists that I love, even if the prices are set to a standard which I consider to be a little bit too much. It's just going to be a case of I can only support X number of artists at a time, which honestly kind of sucks. Because frankly, I want to support artists better than I currently am doing, you know? Streaming is fine, but I want to own the physical media. But the simple fact of the matter is, I cannot sustainably buy new vinyl for every single new release, because quite frankly, I can't afford that, you know? I just can't afford that. And I'm certain that there are lots of people out there who feel the same way. Going to a record store, seeing these 5 or 6 new albums that you really want to buy, but then realising that that armful of wax that you're holding costs about as much as a new sofa, you know? And when it comes down to it, if I'm going to be buying, you know, £500 worth of product, I'd rather buy a new sofa than 10 new vinyl. And it really is a shame. It really is a shame, because I want to continue to support the vinyl industry. I want to continue to buy these new records as they come out, but it's just not sustainable. It is not sustainable, and I worry about the state of the industry, where things are going, and what exactly it is that we can expect to see from the vinyl market within the next 10 years. Because honestly, I think it's due to burst. I can see the bubble bursting, and I really don't want that to happen. And I think if we are to avoid this scenario, if we are to avoid this situation of people just simply not buying vinyl anymore, just because it's putting them outside of their price range, I think we really need to establish, a more standardized practice for vinyl records. You look at CDs, they're between £10 to £15 each, right? As a general rule, about £10 to £15 per CD, which is fine, that's a very acceptable price range. But it's the disparity with vinyl that really gets me. New records can run from as little as £20 to like as much as 70. And you're not getting any more music, you're not getting any more features, you're not getting anything extra that that £20 record doesn't already give you, and it's just not sustainable. So, that, I suppose, is my 2 cents on the current situation with vinyl pricing. I know I've rambled a bit, I've probably contradicted myself in a few places, but that's fine. I'm flying by the seat of my pants here, and I just needed to get this off my chest and do a quick video about this. But I'd love to know what your own thoughts are about the current state of the vinyl industry. Where do you feel this is going? Are you able to afford more than 1 or 2 records a month? Because if you are, then, oh boy, I need to do whatever job you're doing. But no, please do let me know what you think about the current state of the vinyl market in the comments down below. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are about this. But that's my 2 cents. This is just my thoughts and feelings on the matter at the moment. So yeah, there we go. If you did watch this far, thank you so very, very much for watching. And as always, guys, until next time, keep your rhyme signatures pretty odd.